Hello and welcome to my review of the Adeptus Mechanicus Archaeopter. Now this model will set you back £60. It's a lot of money. Firstly, we're going to have a look at the detail and talk about how easy it was to build. We'll do some size comparisons. We'll go through the rules and then I'll give you a bit of a summary on whether I think this model is worth that price point. Now, the one thing I will say in the unboxing is it only consists of 2 sprues. Now, I don't usually make the connection between a number of sprues that a model contains to the price of the model itself, because there are lots of other factors involved, such as R&D costs, and the costs of making the mould for these sprues. But still, at the end of the day, it is a flyer for the Adeptus Mechanicus. I read that a lot of people wanted a flyer. A lot of people wanted a troop transport for Adeptus Mechanicus, and we got one last year in the form of the Scorpius Dune Rider. I've recently built that kit. I think it's fantastic. At first I thought the price of that model was a bit too high, but having built it and the amount of fun that I've had with it, I can tell you that it's quite decent. Certainly better than the same price Impulsor, and it carries more models and you can have it as a main battle tank. Anyway, the review of this model isn't anything to do about that model. What I will say is you get this instruction guide right here. It's got the instructions to build the Stratoraptor, the Fuselage and the Transvector. Now the Transvector is the troop transport. I say that in a loose sense. I never really thought, looking at this model with Jez back in November of 2019, that it would really be able to transport that many Skitarii infantry models. And I even quizzed him about that and asked if he knew how many it could transport. Found out that it can only hold 6, and looking at it, that's about reasonable. It would hold 6. I can't see it holding 10 unless they're kind of sandwiched in as sardines. However, the one thing I will pick up is the rules, and I mentioned this in the unboxing and first look. You only get the rules for the Stratoraptor. Now, I've read comments. I think I read a comment that said, well, that's because you can get the rules in the Engine War book, but that book's £25. And this model's 60. So if you want the rules for this model, that's £85. And that's if you're not interested in the other models. My own opinion is if they provided the rules for the Stratoraptor, they can jolly well provide the rules for the other 2 variants. It's a £60 kit at the end of the day. Now the kit is supplied with 94 components, and you compare that to the most expensive flyer from Games Workshop, the Stormraven gunship, which is only £5 more. That kit has 116 components and feels like you're getting more for your money. It's arguably a better all-rounder vehicle. It can carry a dreadnought. It's got 4 sprues, so you open the box and you sort of don't feel shortchanged. Except you can only build Stormraven gunship, just with different weapon loadouts. Whereas this kit, you've got the option of building 3. You can kind of get away with building this Stratoraptor and having it as a fuselage. You could put very small magnets on these front weapons, and actually they do hold into place, sort of, without any magnetisation, and you can swap them out with the heavy stubbers. The bomb rack itself, you will need to use a magnet, no doubt. But it's a shame because the bomb rack itself can go in and it can move, and then you can move it all the way around and you can turn it back, unlock it and pull it out. The twin Kotnis las cannon, you can't do that, and I think that that's such a shame. They should have had the same mechanism, and then you could have changed it on the fly, pardon the pun. But I think it's a crying shame that you're not able to do that, and you know you will need a magnet to be able to have it swap over. And for a £60 kit, you really want to be able to swap the loadouts through all the different variants. I think that is a must, a kit of this price point. And if they just change a couple of things, it could have been possible. The nose-mounted weapons are kind of interchangeable. They could have just tweaked this rear part. They could have also had these doors movable. Maybe even have an option with an extra part of having the wings changed. So you could have them higher or lower. You could have created some excellent poses there by having these wings lower and moving this on its stand like it's just flapped these wings basically and just taken off. There's just so much scope, and unfortunately the model design has been let down by that. You can't really put it in incredible poses that looking at it deserves, because it is a fantastic looking model, but I feel it just doesn't reach its potential in terms of what we can do with it. And then we move on to the Transvector, which is the troop transport option, which has the legs in a different pose. Now you could get around all of these slight issues by putting magnet inside the body of the flyer, behind the stubbers, so you could magnetize them on and off. You could maybe magnetize the legs. You could definitely magnetize this. These I've left movable, don't know why, but I just have. You know, out of all the things that you can have movable, these thrusters are those things, and it's a bit of a shame because they're just holes. There's nothing extra there. They just go into the model, but there you go. So what we'll do now is we'll just have a little look at the detail. So these are the heavy phosphor blasters. Nothing new or amazing or anything special with these weapons. You've seen them before. These heavy phosphor blasters are the same ones on the Castellan robots. Exactly the same, but they just look massive for some reason. But the Castellan robots have them. So if you've got Castellan robots, you've basically got that weapon. Then you've got these Kotnis heavy stubbers. If it's got Kotnis, it just means that usually it can fire even when advanced, but you just subtract 2 from the hit roll, and that's all right because the ballistic skill is surprisingly 3+ anyway, so that's quite good. It's got this base. I've never really seen this base before, but if we just kind of pop it off the base, what I did is I just glued it in, because there is a plug and socket, and the instructions say glue it in. There are glue points indicated in yellow. But I think what you could do is you could snip off that plug, and I think you could then move it about and have it as you know, posable. I didn't really try that out because the instructions said, you know, glue it, but I think that is actually possible to do. So yeah, I'd give that a whirl if you can. Let's have a look at the rest of the vehicle. So you've got there the heavy stubbers, you've got this little chaff launcher, you've got the twin Kotnis las cannons, just las cannons that you can fire when advancing. You've got the legs, which are a bit funky looking, and then the body of the flyer itself, it kind of just ends. I mean, the cockpit is huge, and then you've just got this little space here, which I guess can fit 6 Skitarii in. But it's very, very small space. It seems like the majority of the craft is taken up by this big cockpit, which is nice, but still. And I do like the rear sort of tail-mounted weapon. I like the chaff launchers being there. I like this big cabling, and the cabling on the wings, and the fact that it's also got thrusters as well. So although it's got these, which look very kind of Leonardo da Vinci, kind of flying machine kind of thing, it's got these, you know, thrusters right here. I've glued these 3 separate pieces. They come as 3 separate pieces, and you just got to be really careful gluing them, that you don't get glue everywhere and it melts everything. But I've glued that. That's going to be off clearly for when I spray it and paint it. It's really odd, the back of the model, because it's just empty. There's just a load of cables and things, and normally in flyers or vehicles and things you have at least a back panel, but there it's just empty. So if you look really close in the back, you know, you can see the light there, look, from the stand. So that's really odd that they didn't have a back panel. Yeah, it's probably going to be a pain to paint all in there, and the screens and things, but hey ho. I do like the sort of pilot thing. He's all plugged in and, you know, fully connected to this. He's got his legs, which are a little bit like the Taraxi claw things on some levers there. But yeah, pretty good. The big thing about this is the wings. Big part of this. The actual body of it, it is small. It is as small as it looks on the camera, if that sort of kind of makes sense. I'll show you some size comparisons right now. I'm not going to throw in any flyer comparisons just because I haven't got any at hand. If you would like to see some flyer comparisons, please do put it in the comments below. The only flyer at hand I've got is a Thunderhawk, but if you would like a separate Archaeopter size comparison video showing you the various flyers, from the Space Marine Xiphon to the Storm Raven to the Thunderhawk and the Corvus Blackstar, then please do put it in the comments and I'll try my best to get that. But for today, I'm just going to show you some size comparisons with other Mechanicus units. First things first, next to a normal Skitarii, here's one. That's about the size he is. Let's just change the camera angle here. So, yep, that's the size of him. Next to a Tech Priest Dominus. See what I mean? Tech Priest Dominus is pretty big compared to him. Next to one of the newer models, Cerberus Raider. Gives you an idea of how big he is there. And I've got a Cataphron Destroyer, is it? I think. Anyway, it's one of those. So that's where it is. It's not really the biggest model compared to all those. Finally, I'll just show you it size comparison to a Scorpius Disintegrator, which I recently just built. And there it is, look, compared to one of these. Scorpius is, I'd say, bulkier. I mean, the wingspan is there, but look at the size of it compared to that. Hopefully you can see that. Hopefully that's a good size comparison there. It's, you know, the whole bulk, the Dune Rider, or the Disintegrator in this case, is bigger, you know, bulk wise. It's a kind of bigger kit if you ignore the wingspan. And I don't know, maybe that makes this Disintegrator seem like more value because it's £15 cheaper. And if you can only buy one thing, well, it depends on which you like the look of the most. But from a kit enjoyment perspective, I found the Disintegrator so much more fun to build and to work on than the Archaeopter. And if I only had the money for one, I'd go for the Disintegrator. And that's quite odd because I didn't think that I'd like it as much. And the opposite can be said with the Archaeopter. I thought I'd like that more, and I thought it'd be more of a challenge and, you know, take me longer, but that was put together quite quickly. But then again, the Disintegrator was put together quicker than I thought as well. Anyway, final sort of size comparison I'll make is just with Space Marine. So I've got the Space Marine, Legacy Space Marine on the left and a Primaris on the right, and then Marbo in the front. So hopefully that helps. Like I say, I'd love to do some flyer size comparisons, you know, bird's eye view, top down view. I think they're really useful. And if you would like to see them, yeah, please do put it in the comments below. Okay, so I got to the very end of the review and the footage even made it onto my computer, and then I realised, oh, I haven't shown you all the spare parts. And there are spare parts, and I apologise if this has happened before in the video. I'm usually not so flippant and forgetful. Oops. But here are the spare parts. You get a decent number. It's not a huge amount though. So you get these little extra leg winglet things, and these are just if you chose a different leg pose. So if you chose the legs a bit more bent, which is what it suggests you do for the Transvector, then you'd put these in place of the you know, spanned open ones. You get the three parts of the bomb rack to make the fuselage. Okay, that's lost forever. The carpet just took D6 mortal wounds. Anyway, So yeah, there's the bomb rack, pretty cool. You get the more heavy stubbers, Kotnis ones. You get the ammo reels as well. And then this is the command uplink, com uplink, whatever you want to call it, and that goes in place of the Chaff Launcher. And then you get the different weapon mounting for the Kotnis heavy stubbers, along with the armor plates for the front of it as well. And I think this is part of the ammo, possibly. Yeah, so they're all the spare parts, not a huge amount, but I thought I'd add them into this video. Okay then, so this is my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules. As I've previously mentioned many times, you only get the rules for the Stratoraptor, which is the kind of air-to-air version of this flyer, in the instruction guide. And it would have been nice if they'd have included both of the others. But nonetheless, you can find them in Engine War, and I'll be doing a closer look at the Adeptus Mechanicus new vehicles, new units tomorrow. So if you revisit this channel tomorrow, we'll go through a closer look at those, because there are quite a few other things coming out in the next few weeks, and I want to give you a closer look at the reviews as quick as humanly possible. So it's a brand new unit. It doesn't matter which option you go for, they're all going to count as a flyer. Now the transport option, the Transvector, is the cheapest at a power points cost of a 5. The Stratoraptor, which this one is the most expensive at a power points cost of a 7, and the Fuselage, or the bomber, is somewhere in the middle at power points cost of a 6. Now points wise, it's a little bit different, because you have to pay for all the other weapons and things. So the Transvector there is a match play points cost of 92, but is equipped with 2 Kotnis heavy stubbers, which are an extra 4 points, and a twin Kotnis heavy stubber, which is another 4 points, so that's 8 points. The command uplink is free, but the Chaff Launcher, if you want to equip it with that, is 20 points. So without the command uplink, the Transvector is a nice, easy 100 points. I don't know why you wouldn't go for the Chaff Launcher though, just because it just adds to the survivability. So in that case, the unit's going to cost you 120 points. The Stratoraptor, which this one is a base points cost of 70. It's got 2 Kotnis heavy stubbers, which is another 4 points, 2 heavy phosphor blasters, which are free, oddly enough, and twin Kotnis las cannon, which are 40 points. So that's 114 points, which isn't too bad, really. And then finally the Fuselage, that's 102 points base, and that one has 4 Kotnis heavy stubbers, and you don't have to pay for the bomb rack, it's all sort of included. So 4 Kotnis heavy stubbers will be 8 points, so that's going to cost you 110 points. So match play points cost wise, the most expensive is the Stratoraptor, especially if you go for that command uplink as well. So even though this is the Stratoraptor, I will talk about the transport option first of all, the Transvector. Now whichever one you pick, the unit profile is exactly the same throughout all of them, which is kind of to be expected. I would have liked a better toughness or something for the Stratoraptor, or I don't know, something slightly better, but still, it's one of these units where the remaining wounds affects its speed, its ballistic skill and attack. So if it's got between 6 and 10 wounds, its movement speed is between 20 and 50 inches, ballistic skill 3+, and attacks 3. The wounds between 3 and 5, movement speed drops to 20 to 35 inches, and ballistic skill 4+, and the attacks go down to D3, and then if it's only got 1 to 2 wounds, the movement speed is 20 to 25 inches, ballistic skill 5+, and attacks 1. So even when it's got 2 wounds or 1 wound, it can still move up to 25 inches. Still, you know, it's a flyer at the end of the day. So the rest of the stat line reads, its weapon skill is 5+, strength is 6, toughness 7, 10 wounds, leadership 9, and a save of 3+. So the Transvector is a single model equipped with 2 Kotnis heavy stubbers and twin Kotnis heavy stubber, and it has a command uplink. So the Kotnis heavy stubber, it's a 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 4, AP 0, and a damage of 1. And typically, if a weapon has Kotnis at the start of it, you can choose this weapon to shoot with even if the bearer advanced, but when resolving an attack made with the weapon, if it advanced, then you subtract 2 from the hit roll. It's also got this twin Kotnis heavy stubber. It's the same as the normal heavy stubber, except it's got double the shots at heavy 6. That's the only difference, hence why it's twin. The model can have a chaff launcher instead of a command uplink, and I'll talk about that in the abilities for this, which are the same for all of the others. It's got canticles of the Omnissiah. You'll need the Codex Adeptus Mechanicus for them. The command uplink then, if the model has a command uplink, friendly Forge World units can use this model's leadership instead of their own whilst they are within 6 inches of this model. That's quite useful. A lot of Adeptus Mechanicus units only have leadership of 5 or 6, so bumping it up to leadership of 9 is great. However, they've got to be within 6 inches, and this thing is going to be moving about, flying 20 inches or so, and all the rest of it. You can forgo all that and have this chaff launcher though, whereby when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against this model, you reduce the damage characteristic of that weapon by 1 to a minimum of 1 for that attack. Now that may help this model's survivability. Maneuverable Craft. When this model moves in your movement phase, first pivot it on the spot up to 90 degrees. This does not contribute to how far the model moves, then move the model straight forwards. It can pivot up to 90 degrees one more time at any point during this move. When this model advances, add 20 inches to its move characteristic until the end of the movement phase, instead of making an advance roll. There you go. So you don't make an advance roll, so that's 20 inch extra. Airborne. You cannot charge with this unit, and this unit can only be chosen as a target of a charge if the unit making the charge can fly. You can only fight with this unit if it is within 1 inch of any enemy units that can fly, and this unit can only make close combat attacks against units that can fly. Enemy units can only make close combat attacks against this unit if they can fly. I don't think I said fly enough then. So that's straightforward. Explodes. When this model is destroyed, you roll 1d6 before any embarked models disembark and before removing it from play. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. It's quite straightforward. I would have liked to have seen a larger blast radius of 6 inches though, you know, to basically show that it's not like a dreadnought blowing up or a tank blowing up. It's, you know, it's hurtling down and bits and debris and things are flying all over the place, but oh well. It's a hover jet. Before this model moves in your movement phase, you can declare it will hover. Its move characteristic becomes 20 inches until the end of the phase, and it loses the airborne, hard to hit and maneuverable craft abilities until the beginning of your next movement phase. It's quite a bit of a trade-off there. Hard to hit. When resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against this model, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So already if you combine the Chaff Launcher by reducing the damage characteristic and the hard to hit where you're subtracting 1 from the hit roll, that increases its survivability. It's only got a 3+ save, it doesn't have an invulnerable save, toughness is only 7, and it's only, I say, got 10 wounds. It's, you know, it's not the most survivable craft, but those 2 extra abilities do help it. The model has a transport capacity of 6 Secutari, Forge World Electro Priest, Forge World Tech Priest, or Forge World Skitari infantry models. It cannot transport Belisarius Call. So that's quite straightforward. I don't know, I was thinking about it the other day in terms of, well, Mechanicus, they have some nice weaponry. Some of it is short range, but they don't really have a lot of beefy, close combat, close quarters units. I mean, so I was trying to think of what you'd definitely put in here if you're just limited to 6 models. Now you can put a Tech Priest in there, so it really depends on when you go for the Manipulus or the Dominus. They both have their pros and cons in terms of the weapons. I think the Manipulus just takes pips the post because of the Mechadendrites and his ability to buff other units. But what other little unit would I put in there? I wouldn't bother with the Skitari Rangers. Maybe the Vanguard if you want to reduce the toughness, or if you want to let rip with their radium weapons, or even Secutari. You know, putting a Tech Priest in here with 5 Titan Guard, maybe not the Peltas, but the Hoplites, that would be a good way to go. Tech Priest with those, and then you've got a start of a little specialised team. Maybe the Electro Priests, And in a way, it's a good way of getting your Electro Priests there. But Electro Priests are a bit squishy, but they do have their invulnerable saves, and they can be quite survivable if used properly. The keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Mechanicus, Vehicle, Aircraft, Transport, Fly, Archaeopter, Archaeopter, Transvector. Now, how does the Stratoraptor and the Fuselage differ? Well, the Stratoraptor still has the 2 Kotnis heavy stubbers, you know, at either side there, is equipped with these heavy phosphor blasters, which are exactly the same as the heavy phosphor blasters on the Castellan robots, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. You know, you've got this, I'd say big, it's a small flyer, isn't it, at the end of the day? You got this flyer with the same size weapons as these kind of mini dreadnoughts. So it's got these weapons, but on top of that, it's got the twin Kotnis las cannon. I would go to far as to say as, even though it is a vehicle, it is a flyer, so in terms of it firing its weapons, I think it could technically fire even if the weapon itself is pointing behind. It can fire those twin Kotnis las cannons forward. But anyway, the twin Kotnis las cannons, again, it's got this word Kotnis in there, which means it can shoot even if it advanced, but you must subtract 2 from the hit rolls. 48-inch range, heavy 2, strength 9, AP -3, and a damage of D6. It's a 2-shot las cannon that can fire on the advance. Again, the war gear options exactly the same as both the Transvector and the Fuselage. And abilities, it's got all of the abilities that the Transvector have. There's nothing extra to this, which is very, very odd. I would have liked to have seen something different maybe, but it is what it is. Got the same keywords, except for, you know, obviously it's a Stratoraptor instead of Transvector. The only big difference is it forgoes this transport capacity of carrying 6 Skitarii models in favour of the heavy phosphor blasters and the twin Kotnis las cannons. So really it's up to you whether you want some beefier weapons, arguably beefier weapons, with that effective range there. I mean, let's face it, this thing has an effective range of 98 inches with those twin Kotnis las cannons. A very nice effective range. And with the heavy phosphor blasters, again, an 86-inch effective range. So that's what you're paying for. You're forgoing all of the kind of 4 Kotnis heavy stubbers, or the 12 strength 4 shots, with 6 strength 4 shots, 3 strength 6 shots, and 2 strength 9 shots. So you're getting 8 shots instead of the 12, but they are better strength and they have an actual AP and they do have some damage. That's the main differences between them. The higher strength, better weapons, or with the Transvector, the transport capacity. Now the Fuselage is a bit of an odd one because you don't necessarily pay for that bomb rack. That's included in the price of the model. You know, it starts off at the 102 points as opposed to the Stratoraptor's 70. But everything is exactly the same, but it's got 4 Kotnis heavy stubbers, so you're still getting 12 shots there, which is nice. You know, it's got the front, so it's got the 2 Kotnis heavy stubbers at the front, and then you know, 1 on each side of the flyer. And like the Stratoraptor, it also forgoes the troop transport capability, but this time it's got this bomb rack. Now I'll read you this ability. At the end of your movement phase, this model can drop heavy bombs on 1 enemy unit it moved over in that phase, to a maximum of 10 d6. Roll 3 d6 for each vehicle and monster model in that unit, and 1 d6 for each other model in that unit. For each roll of 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Now that is horrific. It says at the end of the movement phase, that will come into its own because it doesn't necessarily say that it can't unleash these bombs after it advances. It just says at the end of the movement phase, which I believe, you know, advances is you know, part of the movement phase. It's right at the end. So that's pretty good. You know, its movement speed of up to 50 inches means that from the get-go it's going to be able to move across a load of units. And if you're against one of these, it's going to be beneficial for you to not have your units basically in a line, in like a conga line, because they're going to be hit by all these bombs. But it just has to move over that unit, it just has to clip that unit that it moves over, and then you're getting all those mortal wounds, and it's nice to inflict mortal wounds with a 50-50 chance. So that's the main draw of the Fuselage. It's not of its other sort of guaranteed to hit weapons. It is very scenario specific in that your opponent has to have a collection of units, you know, almost in a line, so to speak, but it can still fly about and drop a load of bombs. It can, you know, turn around, fly back again, and all the rest of it. So it's whether you think that that's going to happen. I would definitely use the Fuselage against horde armies, you know, Tyranids or Orcs or enemies that you have big groups of models that you can fly over and destroy. I wouldn't use it against the Custodians. I don't know why Mechanicus would be fighting against Custodians, who knows, Dark Mechanicum, but still, and maybe not Space Marines or other fast armies like Eldar. So it's very scenario specific, whereas the Stratoraptor, I feel, has the best of all the worlds. You don't need to pack your Dominus or 6 Scutari in there, and this thing could be wiped out with its you know, 10 wounds or whatever. And it has these quite decent weapons that can cause a bit of damage, and has the best and has the greatest effective range. And you don't have to worry about it hovering and then unloading the troops and all the rest of it. And actually, with the Transvector, with all those stubbers that it has, unfortunately, it's just not going to soften up the unit that you want to be assaulting or getting close into combat with. It just doesn't have that formidable firepower. Now, if it had the heavy phosphor blasters and it could, you know, transport 6 models as well, and it maybe had some other couple of weapons like droplet bombs on its wings or rockets on its wings or something else, then that would make the Transvector a more viable option. But as it stands, I've gone for the Stratoraptor, and we'll be using it as a dedicated sort of anti-flyer, anti-ground unit for Mechanicus, which is at odds to my original motivations for getting one of these models. It was mainly going to be a nice little transport to move the Scutari around, but I just think that the Dune Rider does a better job. Anyway, what do you guys think of the model and the rules and the kit itself? Please do put it in the comments below. In summary, I just don't think it's worth it. It's an interesting model to look at, but that's about as far as it goes. It's way overpriced, £60 for 2 sprues compared to other flyers in different armies. Its various options will require you to magnetize and can't be swapped out on the fly. And its rules are just lacking that punch. They're lacking that something special. Overall, I just find the whole unit underwhelming, which is complete at odds with the Disintegrator and the Cerberus Raiders that I've recently picked up. And it's a shame because I was really looking forward to this model, and I think the price point at £45 would have been incredible. To price this at the same point as the Disintegrator would have been a better option to go with, and I had a lot more fun building that kit. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Omnissiah protects.